Welcome all in this lecture of biophysics. In this particular lecture, we are going to discuss about eukaryotic cell structure. So, basically, different types of cell organelles which are inside the cell that we will discuss here. And the topic of this particular lecture is from the textbook Molecular Cell Biology by Harvey Lodis and others. So, at first you see that I said that is eukaryotic cell structure. Now, what are eukaryotes? So, eukaryotes comprise all members of the plant and animal kingdoms as well as protozoans. Proto means primitive and zoan means animal, which are exclusively unicellular and include fungi and amoeba. So, eukaryotic cells are commonly about 10 to 100 micrometer in size, and generally it is much larger than the bacteria. Now, at first as we are discussing about the cell structure, so you see this figure. This is a typical figure of the animal cell, and below this figure is the cell of a plant. So, this is a plant cell. Now, if you see the part 1, so 1 means you see that is this part, that means cell membrane. So, cell membranes are present in both animal and the plant cell. So, plasma membrane, that is a cell membrane actually. So, plasma membrane controls movement of molecules in and out of the cell and functions in cell-cell signaling and cell adhesion. So, this is the main function of the part 1. Part 1, I mean that is there are different parts of a cell. So, in that sense I am saying that is part 1, which refers to the plasma membrane. So, what is the function of the plasma membrane? The function of the plasma membrane is to control the movements of molecules in and out of the cell, and it also helps in cell-cell signaling and cell adhesion. Now, let us discuss in some more details about the plasma membrane. Eukaryotic cells like prokaryotic cells are surrounded by plasma membrane. However, unlike prokaryotic cells, most eukaryotic cells, for example like human red blood cell is an exception, also contain extensive internal membranes that enclose specific subcellular compartments, the organelles, and separate them from the cytoplasm. It means that is apart from the plasma membrane which envelops the cell, but in the internal organelles that are present inside the cells, there are some internal membranes. There are internal membranes, those are just outside of the some organelles, and this membrane separates those particular organelles from the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm means basically this part of the cell, that is if you consider that is the part which are apart from the organelles. So, those particular part is known as the cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm all organelles are distributed. So, in some particular organelles there are some membrane just outside of the organelles that we are going to describe step by step. So, those membranes actually envelops those particular organelles. The organelle free part of the cytoplasm contains water. So, if you consider the organelle free part of the cytoplasm, so those part is known as cytosol. So, cytosol is basically some matrix type of element, and it contains water, dissolved ions, small molecules and proteins. So, this is known as the cytosol. Plant cells and most fungal cells are surrounded by a cell wall that gives the cell a rigid shape and also allows for rapid cell expansion. So this is the difference of a plant cell from an animal cell. So you just listen this part very carefully. That is, plant cells and most fungal cells are surrounded by a cell wall. So that cell contains a cell wall which gives the cell a rigid shape. So plant cell is something rigid compared to the animal cell. So why it is so? Because of the presence of cell wall, and it also allows for rapid cell expansion. Now all eukaryotic cells have many of the same organelles and other subcellular structure. Many of the same organelle means, that is, suppose if you consider the organelle mitochondria, then there may be different several mitochondria. Many organelles are surrounded by a single phospholipid membrane. Many organelles are surrounded by a single phospholipid membrane. That I said earlier, that is, some organelles, they contain also a particular membrane which separates them from the cytoplasm. So this membrane, that is a single phospholipid membrane. So some of the organelles contain a single phospholipid membrane, but the nucleus, mitochondria and chloroplasts are enclosed by two membranes. So you see the difference again, that is, some organelles contains a single membrane, and some organelles, for example nucleus, mitochondria and chloroplast, their membrane is actually a bilayer, that is two membranes. So these are the difference, that is, or specification of some particular organelles. Now you may wonder, that is, why cell has a particular shape, or how cells get its shape. So there is a particular component of the cell which is known as the cytoskeleton. So the cytoplasm contains an array of fibrous proteins collectively called the cytoskeleton. So basically cytoskeleton is an array of fibrous types of proteins, and they consist the skeleton of the cell. For example, human being, they have a skeleton like structure. So that skeleton actually gives the shape of human being. Similarly, cell also has a particular skeleton. We can call them skeleton because these particular fibrous proteins gives the shape of a cell. That is why these type of fibrous proteins are known as the cytoskeleton. And three classes of fibers compose the cytoskeleton: microtubules, 20 nanometer in diameter, built of polymers of the protein tubulin, and microfilaments, they are almost 7 nanometer in diameter, built of protein actin, and intermediate filaments which are almost 10 nanometer in diameter. So these three types of fibers are present in the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton gives the cell strength and rigidity, as I said earlier, because they gives the shape. That is why they also give the strength and rigidity to the cell, thereby helping to maintain its shape. This is perhaps most obvious with neurons, in which microtubules and other fibers allow the formation of the long, slim protuberances, that is the axons and dendrite, that emanate from the cell body and allow each neurons to carry out its specialized functions. So one of the protein, that is, you see, that is microtubules, they are present in neurons, and we will read about neurons in some later chapters in details. Cytoskeleton fibers also control movement of structures within the cell. For example, some cytoskeleton fibers connect to organelles or provide tracks along which organelles and chromosomes move. So this is another function of the cytoskeleton fibers, that control movement of the structure within the cell. So structure, those are within the cell. The cytoskeleton controls their movement. Perhaps most important, cell division and the segregation of chromosomes and organelles into the two daughter cells could not occur without the organizational framework provided by the cytoskeleton and its associated proteins. So, this movement that I said earlier is mainly noted in case of cell division, because you know that during the cell division the segregation of chromosomes and organelles into the two daughter cell. So, there is some movement during the cell division, and this is mostly controlled by the cytoskeleton fibers. Another important thing is that cilia and flagella are similar extensions of the plasma membrane. They are the extension of the plasma membrane. They contain a bundle of microtubules. Microtubules that I said earlier, which are in the neurons, and they are in the cilia and flagella. So, they contain a bundle of microtubules that gives them shape, and together with motor proteins allow them to beat rhythmically. They propel materials across epithelial surfaces, enables sperm to swim and push eggs through the oviduct. So, what is the function of the cilia and flagella? They also help in some movement process with the help of motor proteins. There is a particular protein which is known as the motor protein. So, this with the help of motor protein they control the movement process. For example, they enable sperm to sweep and push eggs through the oviduct, and they also help in cell-cell signaling. We will also learn about the signaling process in some later lectures. So, basically cilia and flagella helps in the movement and cell-to-cell signaling. Now, let us discuss another part, that is most important part of the cell, that is nucleus. So, you see that is blue part here, that is part 5. So, part 5 is the basically this is the nucleolus. Nucleolus is a nuclear subcompartment where most of the cells rRNA is synthesized, and this total part, that is this blue part, this nucleus actually contains in both animal and plant cell. This is a plant cell and this is a animal cell. Nucleus is present there. So, nucleus is filled with chromatin composed of DNA and proteins, and nucleus is a site of mRNA and tRNA synthesis. Now, we will study about the nucleus in details. The nucleus, the largest organelle in animal cell. So, this point is to be noted very carefully, that is what is the largest organelle in an animal cells. So, the nucleus is the largest organelle in animal cells. In animal cells, you note it carefully, this is in animal cells, is surrounded by two membranes. So, I have also said it earlier, that is some of the organelles contains two membranes. So, nucleus is one of them. So, it is a bilayer type of structure, two membranes, each one a phospholipid bilayer containing many different types of proteins, and the inner nuclear membrane defines the nucleus itself. So, let us look at the figure of a nucleus. I will show you. This is the structure of the nucleus. So, you see that its membrane, you see this is inner nuclear membrane, this part. So, its membrane has two layers. One is the inner membrane and other is the outer nuclear membrane. So, this is the structure of the nucleus. It has two membranes, and inside the nucleus there is nucleolus. There are some filament like structure that is called chromatin. You see these filaments are known as the chromatins. Outside the nucleus there is some endoplasmic reticulum. I will discuss later about the endoplasmic reticulum. So this is the basic structure of a nucleus. And what is the importance of the nucleus? In a growing or differentiating cell, the nucleus is metabolically active, as it is the site of DNA replication and the synthesis of ribosomal RNA, mRNA, and a large variety of non-coding RNAs. We will discuss details about the RNA and DNA in some later lectures, but right now you have to just understand, that is, this nucleus, they actually contain the DNA and mRNA. So inside the nucleus one can often see a dense subcompartment termed the nucleolus, where ribosomal RNA is synthesized and ribosomes are assembled. So this is the main importance of the nucleus, because it is the site of DNA replication and the synthesis of the ribosomal RNA, mRNA, and some non-coding RNAs. Another point to note, that is, the total DNA in an organism is referred to as its genome. So in biophysics you will often hear this term, that is genome. So what is genome? The total DNA, you again listen this term or look at this term, that is total DNA. Total DNA in an organism is referred to as its genome. In most prokaryotic cells, most or all of the genetic information resides in a single circular DNA molecule about a millimeter in length. You again see the length specification, that is about a millimeter in length. This molecule lies folded back on itself many times in the central region of the micrometer size cell. So length of the DNA is almost a millimeter. It is folded on itself and it resides in a micrometer sized cell. So where it is in the case of prokaryotic cells. In contrast, DNA in the nuclei of eukaryotic cells, if you consider eukaryotic cells, then it is distributed among multiple long linear structures called chromosomes. So DNA in the nuclei of eukaryotic cells is distributed. It is distributed among multiple long linear chain like structure, and they are called chromosomes. The length, that is the length and number of chromosomes, are the same in all cells of a particular species. This line is very, very important. I am repeating this line, that is, the length and number of chromosomes are the same in all cells of a particular species, but vary among different species. Suppose you consider human being. So in human being, all the cells contain, that is, same length and number of chromosomes. But if you consider a human cell and a plant cell, suppose, then the number of chromosome, or that is the length of the chromosome, will differ. So there is a particular table, I will show you the table, that is where for different types of species and the number of chromosomes and length is specified. Let me see you the table. Let me show you the table. So this is the table. Genome sizes of organisms used in molecular cell biology research. So in this table there are different types of species. For example, eubacteria, then archaea, then single celled eukaryotes, then multicellular eukaryotes. And under these subcategories, that is, for example, suppose eubacteria, there are different types of bacteria. For example, E. coli, Helicobacter pylori. So these are different types of bacteria. Similarly, metazoans, that means multicellular eukaryotes, there are different types of species. For example, human, mouse, chicken, zebrafish, different types of species are there. And if you see this particular column, so this is the number of chromosomes. For example, if you consider the human being, the number of chromosome is 24, and if you consider the mouse, so it contains 21 chromosomes. Then you see that is approximate number of encoded proteins which vary from species to species. And this is base pair. Base pair means base pair is a particular length. This is basically the length of the chromosome. So you see this also differs from one species to another species. So here we have learned that the number of chromosomes and length vary from species to species. Each chromosome comprises a single DNA molecule. So if you consider a particular chromosome, so in that particular chromosome it comprises a single DNA molecule associated with numerous histones and other proteins. So in a particular chromosome there is a single DNA molecule present. Now let us discuss some another organelles. For example, suppose that is nuclear envelope. Nuclear, you see the structure 4, that is it is the envelope of the nucleus. So nuclear envelope, a double membrane encloses the contents of the nucleus. So basically nuclear envelope is the outer layer of the nucleus. The outer nuclear membrane is continuous with the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now I will discuss some more details about the endoplasmic reticulum. Generally, the largest membrane in a eukaryotic cell encloses the organelle termed the endoplasmic reticulum. An extensive network of closed flattened membrane bounded sacs called cisternae. The endoplasmic reticulum has a number of functions in the cell, but is particularly important in the synthesis of lipids, secreted proteins, and many types of membrane proteins. So there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. The first one is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and it is termed as smooth because it lacks ribosomes. It is the site of synthesis of fatty acids and phospholipids. So what is the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum? It is the site of synthesis of fatty acids and phospholipids. And there is another type of endoplasmic reticulum which is known as the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and it is studded with ribosomes. So in rough endoplasmic reticulum there are ribosomes. These ribosomes synthesize certain membrane and organelle proteins and virtually all proteins that are to be secreted from the cell. So I will show you the endoplasmic reticulum again. You see this dotted like endoplasmic reticulum, they are the rough endoplasmic reticulum because ribosomes are present there, and where ribosomes are not present, those part will be the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Reticulum means actually network like structure. So you see that these structures, if you look at this structure, so these are the network type of structure, that is why they are known as endoplasmic reticulum. And another part I will discuss, that is known as the Golgi complex. So what is the function of the Golgi complex? Golgi complex basically modifies some proteins. So how they modify? Secreted and membrane proteins. So the membrane proteins that are secreted from the endoplasmic reticulum, secreted and membrane proteins undergo a series of enzyme catalyzed chemical modifications in the Golgi complex that are essential for these proteins to function normally. So once the secreted proteins secreted proteins that are secreted from the endoplasmic reticulum. So they go to the Golgi complex, and there some chemical modifications take place. So why modifications? Modifications are necessary so that these proteins can function normally. So this is the role of the Golgi complex. So part 9 is the Golgi complex. You see the part, that is this part 9. You see the figure then here. So they are present in both animal and plant cell. So part 9 is the Golgi complex. Now another part that I will discuss now, that is lysosomes. Part 3. You see, lysosomes are present in animal cell only. So what is the function of the lysosome, that I will discuss in details. Lysosomes provide an excellent example of the ability of intracellular membranes to form closed compartments in which the composition of the lumen means the aqueous interior of the compartment, that is known as the lumen, in which the composition of the lumen differs substantially from that of the surrounding cytosol. So if you consider the lumen of the lysosome and that of the cytosol, so they are a little bit different. Found exclusively in animal cell, that is, I am repeating it again, I have already told, that is, lysosomes are found in animal cells. Lysosomes are responsible for degrading many components that have become obsolete for the cell or organisms. The process by which an aged organelle is degraded in a lysosome is called autophagy. That is, it may happen that the cell organelles or cell components are obsolete, that is not needed now. So how they will modify? So the process by which an aged organelle, I mean that is that organelle, suppose it is no more needed. So this aged organelle is degraded in a lysosome. That aged organelle will degrade to a lysosome, and this process is known as autophagy. Autophagy means eating oneself. That means it is not necessary, so you have to degrade this. Materials taken into a cell by endocytosis or phagocytosis may also be degraded in lysosomes. It may happen, that is, some materials are taken into the cell by the process of endocytosis or phagocytosis, and it may also degrade to lysosomes. In phagocytosis, large insoluble particles, for example, suppose bacteria, are enveloped by the plasma membrane and internalized. So function of the lysosome is very important for a cell. So this is about the lysosome. Now another important organelle is peroxisome. So peroxisome is present in both animal and plant. So peroxisomes contain enzymes that break down fatty acids into smaller molecules used for biosynthesis and also detoxify certain molecules. So this is the role of the peroxisome. And this is part 11. You see the figure in part 11. This is the peroxisome, this part, and here this part, this one and this one. And part 10 is the some secretory vesicles. Some secretory vesicles are there. Secretory vesicles store secreted proteins and fuse with the plasma membrane to release their contents. Cytoskeleton, that is skeleton of the cell, I have already discussed. Part 12. Part 12 is the cytoskeleton that gives the shape of the cell, that I have already discussed. And part 13, that are contained in animal cell. Microvilli increase surface area for absorption of nutrients from surrounding medium. So there are some microvilli present. You see the part 13. So these are the microvilli. And part 14 is the cell wall. You see the cell wall. Cell wall contains only for plants. I have already said about cell wall, which gives the rigid shape of the plant cell. So part 14 is the cell wall. And vacuoles store water. Part 15 is the vacuole. Vacuoles are in the plant cell only. You see that is some of the organelles are the characteristic of plant cell and some of the organelles are the characteristic of animal cell. So vacuoles are present in plant cells. Vacuole stores water, ions, nutrients, and it degrades macromolecules and functions in cell elongation during growth. Chloroplast, part 16. Chloroplast contains in plant cell. Chloroplast which carry out photosynthesis process, which we will discuss in later lectures. And chloroplasts are surrounded by a double membrane and contains a network of internal membrane bounded sacs. And part 17 is the plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata, you see in that in the plant cell, plasmodesmata are found. Plasmodesmata are tube-like cell junctions that span the cell wall and connect the cytoplasms of adjacent plant cells. But here I have not discussed a most important part that I will discuss in details. That is the mitochondria, part 2. So mitochondria are present in both animal and plant cells. So mitochondria which are surrounded by a double membrane and generates ATP by oxidation of glucose and fatty acids. Now I will discuss a little bit more details about the mitochondria. So most eukaryotic cells contain many mitochondria which occupy up to 25% of the volume of the cytoplasm. These complex organelles, which are the main sites of the ATP production during aerobic metabolism. We will discuss about the metabolism process later in details, but during the aerobic metabolism process, ATPs are produced in the mitochondria, and I have already told that it has a double membrane. In non-photosynthetic cells, the principal fuels for ATP synthesis are fatty acids and glucose. So how ATP is synthesized? It is synthesized from fatty acids and glucose. The complete aerobic degradation of one molecule of glucose to carbon dioxide and water is coupled to the synthesis of as many as 30 molecules of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphates. We will discuss about the synthesis of the ATP later, but this information is very important, that is the complete aerobic degradation of one molecule of glucose. So one degradation of one molecule of glucose to carbon dioxide and water. So this process is coupled to the synthesis of how many molecules of ATP? 30 molecules of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphates. In eukaryotic cells, the initial stages of glucose degradation take place in the cytosol. I have already discussed about cytosol. So in cytosol, 2 ATP molecules per glucose molecules are generated. This is the first step. That is, in the cytosol, 2 ATP molecules per glucose molecules are generated. The terminal stages of oxidation and ATP synthesis are carried out by enzymes in the mitochondrial matrix and inner membrane. So rest of the ATP synthesis are carried out by the enzymes in the mitochondria, and as many as 28 ATP molecules per glucose molecules are generated. So 2 molecules are generated in cytosol and 28 ATP molecules are generated in mitochondria. Similarly, virtually all the ATP formed in the oxidation of fatty acids to carbon dioxide is generated in mitochondria. For example, here we have discussed that is conversion of glucose to ATP. Similarly, ATP can be formed from the oxidation of fatty acid also, and that also takes place in mitochondria. That is why mitochondria can be regarded as the powerhouse or power plants of the cell. This sentence is very important, that is the mitochondria can be regarded as the power plants of the cell. So here we have discussed about different organelles of the cell, and I hope you have understood my lecture. And if you want to go some more details, then you have to go through the textbook of Harvey Lodis and others. The name of the textbook is Molecular Cell Biology, and I request you to go through the chapter 1. In chapter 1 you can find, that is, different cell organelles, description of the cell organelles that are present in eukaryotic cell or prokaryotic cell. So I thank you all for listening the lecture.